Well, hello everybody. Russ and the West Ham Network. Hope you're safe and well. A bit of a brain dump video, you like it when I sort of think out aloud, and that's what I'm trying to do. Um, so the news came out on Thursday that Pablo Fornals was not going to, wasn't sort of confirmed 100%, but basically saying that he wants out. Basically, I think Sean on his West Ham Football X account. It's not Twitter anymore, his X account, which sounds weird. Poor X, he hasn't got a clue what's going on now if they're talking to him or talking about Twitter. Anyway, so he basically said that obviously, currently we have him under his contract runs out. He signed a 5-year deal when we signed him. We'll talk about that in the tick. 5 years plus a year option. And he alluded to the fact that Fornals doesn't want to take the option up, and West Ham, and he doesn't want to sign a new contract with West Ham. In the same sort of day, an article by I think it was called Vamos Mi Sevilla, a Spanish media outlet, basically said that Sevilla is his side of preference. Sevilla want to sign a pre-contract agreement in January, which is more than obviously, because being a foreign club, he can do in the last 6 months of his contract, and so they want him to sign a pre-contract agreement in January and join them in the summer. Even maybe potential termination of the contract early. That's not going to happen. Surely it's not going to happen, because there's still a lot of uncertainty about the Lucas Paqueta situation, and also the AFCONs as well, where arguably Fornals would be needed, particularly on that left hand side. And so there was like, people were going, but a lot of people were getting very frustrated and angry about this news. And I'm in two minds, I'll be honest, and that's why I sort of stepped back and was looking at it as a picture, as a bigger picture. And I think when you do that, I think actually, although it's horrible, like it's not nice when players leave, or don't want to sign new contracts, and unhappy, so to speak. But I think actually, when you think about it, there's not a victim of our own success, but our recruitment, particularly this year, has improved, no doubt. And actually, we've got a better team. And actually, it should be a case where it's harder to get into the first team. And for someone like Fornals, the trouble is because he has such an affiliation with the fan base. That's where the angst has come, I think, because he's so, West Ham is massive everywhere we go, all that type of stuff. Because he's such a nice bloke, we think that he should get in the first team, and I know that when he plays, his energy is fantastic. But when you look at it as a whole, I think actually it's a sign of the times we're in now in terms of West Ham. I think football now is not about sentimentalism. We've seen that before with the likes of James Collins, for example, for Ginge not getting that 10th year to get the testimonial. And, Cresswell will be a testimonial year when he's soon, I think. But he's not going to get X. We don't want to pay the money for it. So it's not about sentimentalism now. It's about being ruthlessness. And I think actually, as a football club, we need to be more ruthless, because for quite a long time, we have kept players on well beyond their sell-on value, well beyond their sell-by date. And that basically leaves a space for, takes up a space for the pathway players coming through. And I think we need to look at things a little bit more in general. So I've got some slides here. You know me, I love some stats about Pablo, because I think it's interesting to see, in terms of what he's brought to the table so far. Obviously, he signed back in 2019 under Pellegrini, so not a Moyes signing, as a tricky number 10, really. He's been here for 5 seasons now. He's played 184 West Ham appearances in all to date, as of the 15th of September. And has scored 23 goals in his time at West Ham. Obviously, one of them being very critical in being the goal that took us into the final of the Europa Conference League last year. When you look at his breakdown, so we've got here the 5 years, how many total appearances, the starts, sub appearances, and the percentage of his appearances which have been starts. You know, even his first year, there was a lot of sub appearances for him. Then in the 21-22 season, definitely established himself. Only made 36 appearances though. But that was sort of curtailed by everything else with COVID and whatnot as well. And I think he got injured as well a bit as well. So not that many appearances. 21-22 season, 54 appearances. And then last year, he still made 50 appearances, albeit 25 off the bench, 25 starts. And obviously within those starts, I haven't gone through the stats in terms of breaking it down in terms of Premier League and non-Premier League starts. I think that would be quite interesting to see, because obviously the fact is the last 3 years we've been in Europe, so naturally there have been more games to play, and therefore there's been more opportunities to make starts. But you can see that there's clearly it's his role at the club as a first teamer, as a first 11er, has diminished in the last 3 years. But that's gone into a situation where we've improved our squad in the last 3 years. And so if he was still getting 70-80% of the games, we arguably, it can be said that our squad wasn't improving, because actually it should be a case that we're getting better players in, and the players who are on the peripherals, it's going to get harder for them to get into football and get into the first team. And when you look at who his options are now, it's not surprising that he's not getting any game time, in all honesty. You look at it, we've got his midfield competition. He's got Lucas Paqueta. He's got Thomas Souček. He's got Alvarez. He's got James Ward-Prowse. And he's even got Connor Coventry as well. So there's 6 players, including Fornals, competing for 3 places, really. And arguably the first, 4 technically, because he tends to play, whether he plays 3 or 4, it depends. But, he's arguably 5th choice there. He won't get in the side above Lucas Paqueta. He won't get in the side above Alvarez, who we've just paid 35 million quid for. He won't get out in the side of JWP, because he was someone that Moyes wanted and, again, paid a lot of money for. And we know that Moyes is a big fan of Souček, so the chances are he's not going to get. And actually, to be honest, Souček's arguably our most improved player, I'd say, since the beginning of the season, since he should not be named the former captain, number 41, has left. So it's tough for him to get into that Premier League starting 11 side. Now, obviously, he could easily play on next Thursday, in terms of playing against TSC, and he probably will do. But that's not what he wants. If you look at it, and that's his best position in midfield. Obviously, he's been sort of sent out on his left-hand side position, which he's just sort of seemed to have been stuck there. But even then, either side of the forward positions, he's probably, again, 3rd choice now. You've got Ben Rama, you've got Bowen, you've got Kudus. Then I'd say you maybe got Fornals, and then you've got Cornet. So he's 4th choice there as well. The lad's 27 years old now. The lad's, he wants to be playing first team football, and our squad is improved to the ability that it's tougher for him to get into the squad. Same as someone like Cornet. People saying I'd rather sell Ben Rama than Fornals. I think Benny actually has a bit more, because of that left-hand side, that's sort of his side, really. Actually, I think, to be honest, in terms of the squad as a playing staff, rather than as a personality, I think actually Benny's probably, you'd keep him more than Fornals, in all honesty. Not saying Fornals isn't a great player at all. That is not what I'm trying to say. But actually, when you look at it from the wider picture, he's the 4th choice central midfielder. He's 4th choice pretty much, or 3rd or 4th choice on the wides, so 2nd or 3rd on the left-hand side, particularly. The chance of him getting first team Premier League football is much smaller. Obviously, come January, we'll need him. We'll need him in January. So he'll get a little run there. And maybe if it carries on, he might get a few more games in. But we know he's going to be confined to maybe the Cup games and also the Europa League games. Now, for him, he's 27. Arguably, the next contract he signs could be his last contract, or his last major contract in professional football. He might sign one, if he signs another 5-year deal, he'll be 32, 33 by the time that comes along. And then there would be not a veterans deal, but a 1 or 2 year deal, which would see him through to the end of his career, probably, sort of a rolling contract type. That's what tends to happen unless you're West Ham, when you offer people massive contracts and they're already on the age the age limit anyway. The only thing as well is, and I've said this so many times, for him, he needs first team league football. He needs that because obviously this year we've got you've got the Euro 2024s. Obviously, he still has aspirations for playing for Spain. Of course he does. Who doesn't? And he needs regular first team league football for that. He's not going to get that at West Ham. And whether that's and I don't see it being, and yeah, I'm not trying to back up Moyes for this at all, but actually, if you look at it, he's not going to get in front of players who've just spent 35 million, and that's the way it should be. It should be. We should be having these competitions for places, and we have got competition for places. We see Fabianski the other day. When Fabianski got dropped for Rabiot, he threw his toys out the pram. Rather than buck up and fight for his place. Same with Antonio. As soon as we brought in Skamaka, he was like, "Yeah, I want some competition." We got him competition. He wanted to run a mile. He wanted to leave. And that's the thing now. We've got a squad. And that's not even including bringing Jesse Lingard in. If we bring Jesse Lingard in, arguably he'd be playing in the middle of the park somewhere. So Fornals could go down another rung down the ladder. And I'm not saying that Jesse Lingard's a better player than Fornals, but what I'm saying is, in terms of the current manager, we know that he would probably play Jesse Lingard ahead of Fornals. Whether you agree or disagree is another thing. The trouble is, we can't. We know he's a good player. We know Fornals is better in the middle. He's wasted on the left hand side, but we're not in the dugout, and that's the trouble. And I think because he's such a nice bloke as well, that he gets like an extra attribute card. Does that make sense? He's like, same as with when we have sort of academy players. I think sometimes we put them on a pedestal where they're not actually that good. So we think they're better than they are. So someone like Connor Coventry, he's not going to get first team football, is he? Realistically, he's not going to upset that sort of that midfield three of or forward, about whoever Moyes plays there. But he's not going to upset that with Paqueta and Souček and stuff. But he's always like, oh, he's a academy player, and and we was Josh Cullen and things like that. But these guys had to move to then get, so like Josh had to move to Anderlecht, and then fortunately, someone like Vincent Kompany then goes to Burnley, and he takes him with him, and now he's playing in the Premier League again, and that's great to see. But we do this. I remember like the Grady and Garner, that, we had such a it was like the world had fallen in when we sold him. And we got 19 million quid for him. And how many years was that ago? That's a really fucking good deal. And I think the trouble is with Fornals is now it's like we've got this affiliation. He's a player that we all love, and he's a player we'd love to see do well. But I just don't think, honestly, he's going to be able to do that at West Ham. And I'd want to wish him well. I'd want him to play first team football because he's a nice bloke as well. He's got a young family. He's a lovely guy. He's really sweet. Everyone loves him. But if his desire is to play first team league football, then, or starting first team league football, because the player said he played 50 games last season, actually scored more goals than he's done in any other season at West Ham as well. And so, it's cutting the umbilical cord off. Do you know what I mean? And I just think sometimes we have this sort of utopian view of football players. We know that's not the case. It's a career. It's a job. And, he should have been named the former captain. We know that's the case because he jumped ship. And for me, it's more a case of making it as amicable as possible. Same as Lanzini. Lanzini was here for how many years, and the amount of games. He's one of, I think he's top 20, top 30, something like that, appearances all time. And we let him go as well. And that's unfortunately, I think, how we should need to behave. And the fact is, because we know that Fornals is going now, unlike other regimes at West Ham, we know under Steinden, he knows, right, okay, Fornals is going to go. So who are we going to bring in, or who can we promote from the youth squad? Who's the next one in there? Could it mean Freddie Potts comes back from his loan spell and gets around the first team? What would you prefer? Would you prefer Pablo Fornals to stay, or Freddie Potts to get some minutes, or even just get some experience in the first team when he comes back from Wickham? Eh? Because that's the other side. There's that's the now. Keeping, if we tied Fornals down to another, if he did sign another 4-year deal or whatever, where's the progression for someone like Freddie Potts? There isn't. Would you rather see someone like Freddie Potts, who's young, coming into the side potentially? Don't forget, this will be for the next season onwards. I'm not saying for in January, because obviously he's doing good stuff at Wickham at the moment. It was his birthday the other day. Happy birthday, Fred! I'm sure you're watching. So that's the flip side of it. Patrick Kelly, we've got George Earthy, we've got some great players who could be experiencing the first team setup in terms of match day squads and things like that. All good experience, And I think there's it's like a yin and yang, isn't it? If you tie players down to longer like players who may. I don't want to be a downer on Fornals, because I think he's a great. I love the lad. He's got an energy. He's got an abundance. We bought him as a tricky winger. He became, Moyes sort of turned him into this sort of more box to box player. He's got a real energy. He loves football. He loves West Ham, but that's only so much. And actually, when you go and spending another £30 million on JWP, 35 or whatever it was on Alvarez, you're thinking we're going to spend money on Kudus. We've got Ben Rama, we've got Paqueta, we've still got Tommy Soucek. We've got some really good midfield players, and Fornals just isn't in that. He's not in that discussion, and that might be a fault of the manager. I'm not saying that is, but would you rather have Alvarez, or would you rather have Fornals in? You might rather want Would you rather want JWP in or Fornals? I won't ask the question about Tommy Soucek, because most of you will probably say Tommy Soucek. But actually, I think Tommy Soucek probably been our most improved player this season so far in the 4 games we played so far. We've definitely seen a much better Thomas Soucek than we have before, particularly in the last 2 years, without a shadow of a doubt. And we know he's one of Moyes' generals, so he's not going to get ahead of him. He's not going to get ahead of Lucas Paqueta. On the left-hand side, if you're going to play this sort of weird 4-1-4-1, there's no place for Ben Rama at the moment. So even when he did play Ben Rama, Fornals would be after Ben Rama on that side. Anyway, I'll be really interested to know your thoughts about this, all, because take it from a looking down rather than a I mean when I saw the new show, I was really annoyed, because I love Fornals, but actually when I think about it, this is the way we're going to be as West Ham now. We've got to be more ruthless if we're going to progress. Too far down the line, we've been so sentimental, and we've offered players contracts which you probably shouldn't have offered them. And obviously, we haven't I think we've offered Fornals a contract, but he doesn't want to sign it. Fair enough. So actually, it's like, yeah. And actually, we had Stephen on from Esteemed Company. He was saying that's basically what Man City do now. When the player wants to leave, we treat them like adults, and we go, okay, yeah, sure, let's make sure we get the best deal for him. Whether it's us getting the best deal, or selling him before his sort of contract comes into ends, and then actually get some money for him to reinvest in the side. It's the same as if you're you go into a job and you hand your notice in. Of course, that 9 times out of 10, your boss will offer you a little incentive to stay. If you turn that down, there's nothing they can do, and then they just sort of then it's, and this is the same principle. Football's not about sentimental, isn't it? It's not about from a player perspective. It's a job. It's a very short career, and they want to be getting as much money as they can and playing as much football. Fornals don't want to sit on the bench all the time. And if we're just sort of saying, okay, well, no, you stay with us, and that's not fair on the player either, is it? Really? And his mental well-being as well. Let's be honest. And if it means that he can move on, maybe even sell him early, get a little bit of money for him, reinvest that, and then give a spot in the squad, in the matchday squad, for someone like a Freddie Potts to come in. Why not? Anyway, Don't forget to like, comment, share all that good stuff. There's me ranting on for a little bit. As I said, we'll be back later on. Make sure you hit the bell notification. Loads of content, some really good interviews, really fucking good interviews coming out in the next few weeks. Don't miss them. Please don't. So make sure you hit the bell notification and hit all. So take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble, keep the faith, my friends. Come on, you bloody irons.